A Marine is characterized as one who possesses the highest of military virtues. He obeys all orders, respects his seniors, and strives constantly to be the very best at everything he does. Discipline and spirit are the hallmarks of a Marine. You too can become a Marine if you develop discipline and spirit. We will give every effort to train you, even after some of you have given up on yourself. You're listening to Two Marines, One Mic.
We're back. What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Two Marines, One Mic. As always, I'm Phil.
And this is Wade.
And we're your hosts. What? Bow, 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 bow.
Yeah.
That was a weird frog voice yet there, dude. So we are preparing to do our first, do we call it a tandem speech, talk, presentation?
It's actually our second.
Well, second. First planned. Right, I feel like the first one was like really like
super casual.
Yeah, super casual, fragilistic, expialidocious, and I don't know who's on what, but we're gonna figure that out. So we're preparing to give a talk to the American Heritage Boca Delray Middle School, the entire middle school, all at one time, following
Eric Reed, Miami Heat.
Eric Reed.
Make some noise for you, Miami Heat.
So, first of all, incredible honor. Super excited to do that. Also, scary as shit. Right?
Yeah, the podcast I was listening, or not podcast, the TED Talk I was listening to today said 41% of the world is petrified of public speaking.
I'm not part of those people. By any means. I have no problem speaking in front of a group. But, I mean, it's Eric Reed, man. I mean, you know, maybe not like Tony Robbins, but at the same time, it's like, okay, cool. Like,
it's like career day, and you got someone who's on TV all the time, and then there's Joe Schmuckatelli.
Yeah, I think we've got a little bit more than Joe Schmuckatelli under our belt, but I see where you're going with that, and I don't disagree. I don't. But in preparation for this, we're getting really deep, and we're trying to build our presentation that we usually do, you know, the stuff that we talk about on the podcast, the stuff that we talked about at the high school last time we did this, and make it relatable for kids that are 12, 13, and 14 years old. Not easy when every other word out of my mouth is fuck.
They specifically said no fucks.
No, not no fucks given. Like, no, I can't say fuck.
You cannot say fuck.
So we're presented with an issue, which is okay. But we're building a presentation, and like I said, we're getting really deep into like our childhoods and things that we went through and struggles that we had growing up that have kind of shaped us into the men that we are today and the message that we carry with us now. And being able to relay that with depth and weight to a group of preteens and teenagers. Super cool. So we do have a purpose behind our podcast. I think we should go there.
Let's do it. The purpose of this podcast is to give you, the listener, and the viewer, skills, information, and tools that we learned in the Marine Corps.
Yeah.
That if you apply to the civilian world,
what?
You can ultimately improve the quality of your life. Yeah.
I was going for the second ultimately again, and I don't think that's going to catch on. So we're building if I say we're building a presentation one more time, punch me in the throat. So we want to talk about like a lack of resources and how like determination and passion and perseverance really pushed us through not only our younger years, but to like right now, and how like small events, seemingly small events at the time in our childhoods have again shaped us into the outstanding, handsome gentleman that you see before you today. So what happened? Where did we start? What was the beginning of the failures, the beginning of the self-doubt, obstacles, things like that? What was it for you, man?
For me, it was, I didn't love school. I'm probably one of the few people that went through high school with, I don't own a yearbook. But prior to that, I think very early on, somewhere along the way, they had me tested and labeled as learning disabled. And, you know, at that time, it's not like you're hardwired to have some tremendous self-confidence.
Overwhelming, self-confidence.
You know, you don't have that awareness. So, you know, I just thought C's were cool. And I just was in classes that were less challenging, which I had a real reality check when I took an entrance exam at a junior college. And like,
go Seahawks.
Non-credited, go Seahawks. Non-credited English, where everyone in that class, English was their second language.
Yeah. And I know that feeling, man. I wasn't in like ESOL English or whatever they call it, ES, whatever. But like 6th grade, like I remember this as I was thinking about this while I was writing down, you know, my portions of the talk. And I was thinking about a significant event that had happened to me during those years, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And there were a few, but a couple stood out more than most. You know, I didn't make a travel baseball team that all my friends were on that I went to school with. And it was kind of like the first time that I publicly failed in front of people. And that was kind of rough, man, but we're not there yet. We're not hitting that level of, oh man, I get that. And I might do it for some. 9/11 happened when I was in 6th grade. I remember exactly where I was. I could tell you exactly what happened. But as I was thinking about it, and I'm thinking about how to be relatable, how to relate my middle school experience to a new age middle school experience and get across the message that I was labeled as broken as shit, and fixed it. And now I'm being asked to speak in front of middle schoolers at a school that I had no opportunity of fucking chance of getting into, to tell them how I made it through. Right. And the incident that happened was when I was in 6th grade. By this time, there was an ongoing pattern of me not doing well grades-wise in school. My parents knew I was smart. I knew I was smart. I just was like, I didn't like to do homework. I got bored very easily. I had what was described as like the attention span of like a fly or a mosquito, you know, buzz around, do a whole bunch of different things at one time. And I love doing that. I love change. I still to this day love change. I go fast. So my parents took me to a child psychologist, and the guy was like, I feel like it was like after like 5 minutes sitting with me, he's like, and you know what's funny is I see the guy every once in a while. He goes to breakfast at my buddy's restaurant, and won't talk to him, no fucking way. But still, you know, my parents explained to him, you know, what they thought the problem was, as any good parents would. They were concerned for me, and I don't blame them one fucking bit, because I was a lot to handle. But doctor was like, ADHD. We got a cure for that. Here's some pills. Have them. And I was like, perfect. So in hindsight, looking back at that event, one, the medication didn't work. I was like a guinea pig. That was the first time I was a guinea pig for medication when I was like 10, 11, or like 12, 13 years old. And then the stuff didn't work. And also at the same time, at a very early age, I was labeled as broken. The way that I wasn't good enough. Something was wrong with me, and it needed to be fixed. Like, I was broken and needed to be fixed. And to tell some kid that may not seem like it on the outside, but that's going to destroy somebody's like self-confidence, their self-image, their the way that they think about themselves. And when you destroy a child's way of thinking about themselves, it kind of puts a big damper on any creative process, I believe that there is.
100%.
So
what do you mean by broken? They told you you're broken, or because of the ADHD?
Yeah, right. Like something's wrong with me.
Okay.
You know, like I'm not right. Like I'm broken and I need to be fixed. Not like broken bones, but like there's something wrong with me. Like I'm not okay the way that I am. Like the way that I am naturally is not okay. So here's some medication. We're gonna fix you. And when you think about that, man, that's like rough as shit. And everybody's so quick to say, "Oh, my kid's got ADD. My kid's got ADHD."
I think a lot of the kids that we speak in front of on Friday are going to be super relatable to the kids that are labeled learning disabled. So they're going to be able to relate to what you're saying.
Yeah.
Most of those kids, I hear it all the time. ADHD, it's probably more prevalent now because the food's gotten worse.
Right. And because I showed those patterns that I talked about earlier, like I like to bounce around. I played a lot of different sports. Saved a fuck there. Played a lot of different sports, didn't like to do homework. I like to be outside. I like to try new things. I like to bounce around, you know? So after I got diagnosed or whatever the doctor told me with ADHD, I'm like, oh man, like You mean like I'm not supposed to do this? And then I have these thoughts, like thinking back on this now, like I'm understanding my thought process was, I'm not supposed to bounce around. I'm not supposed to do all these things. I'm going too fast. I need to slow down. I need to think more. I need to do all of this stuff, when in reality, nothing was fucking wrong with me. Not a damn thing. And I didn't realize that until 20 years later. But the fact of the matter is that I was going too fast for the people around me.
I think that's the other message that we should that I think we discussed trying to get across to these kids is being different is okay.
I wish I was more different when I was a kid. I wish I was more different. I wish someone told me that, like, there was no damn chance. No damn chance. Like, I wrote, and I'm not going to, like, talk about the entire fucking piece of the speech that I wrote, but, like, I talk about that. Like, if you would have told me, my parents, my friends, my teachers, where I would be standing today, they all would have laughed and shunned you off with disbelief. Every single one of them. Maybe not my parents. My mom fucking loves me to death, and she always knew that I was going to do good shit, but it was a fucking shaky road getting there. You know, it wasn't like, oh, he's on the path. Like, I was off the path all the time. Whether it's, you know, the things that I did in high school, the amount of high schools that I went to, the things that I did after high school, I didn't take the normal route. And you didn't either.
Nope. And that might be why all my high school friends and college friends always give me, like, out of boys when they see me, because I guess they just didn't anticipate it. Now that I think about it.
Right?
Yeah, you didn't do anything in school.
So
job.
And I know exactly what you're talking about, because I get the same thing from my friends' parents now. And I started getting them after I joined the Marine Corps. And, like, I had, like, kind of shaped up a little bit, and I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not doing as many, like, delinquent things as I was, but I'm still, like, bouncing around. I'm in the Marine Corps. Like, none of my friends are in the fucking military. And, you know, I did something different. And to them, to my friends' parents, I had made something of myself, which is great. And I was thinking the same thing at the time. And I love the Marine Corps. I love what the Marine Corps has done for me. But then I'm coming home, you know, my friends' parents, Phil, you're so grown up now. It's so good to see that you've matured and that you're doing great and things like that. And then I fucked it up again, right? Like, when I got out and I started drinking, I started being the shit show of the neighborhood again and blah, blah, blah. I mean, they still, like, had more, like, love for me than they did when I was, like, a really little shithead. But then it came again, like, oh, Phil, I'm so proud of you for getting into the University of Miami. Phil, I'm so proud of you for quitting school and starting a business. I'm so proud of you for all of the inspiration that you give people on the internet machine and through your podcast. So I get it. But at the same time, I feel like that still, to me, is like that little chip on my shoulder that was like, I knew I was never fucking good enough for you. I knew you were thinking, like, when's this kid gonna get it? I knew you were thinking all of these things. And meanwhile, in the back of my head, I'm like, you know, I got this. I got this shit. Like, don't worry about me. Like, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, yeah, me too. I'm happy. But I fucking got you.
Well, that's because at the end of the day, like, where we want to go with this is because passion, if you follow your passion, then, not to sound metaphorical, but, like, the universe just starts to align itself with your vision.
100%, dude. And there's so many instances, like little breadcrumbs that have been dropped in my path that I can't explain, number one. And I'm not going to try to. I'm not going to get on a spirituality kick or a God thing here on the podcast. But there is more than a dozen times where I should be, like, dead in jail, seriously maimed or injured, and I'm not, number one. Number two, both of us have been able to not only meet, contact, work with, inspire, and do other awesome, cool shit with people that I know I have no business, you know, in my own head being in the same room as.
100%.
So explain that, right?
It's just believing in what we're doing. Having a passion, like having a vision, following a passion, and having the balls to go after it.
Right. That was the next thing, is like, what is passion? Like, everybody, I feel like, has something that they're passionate about. And that's something that we can hit on with these kids, is that they're still in an age where maybe no one's told them that their ideas are stupid yet. I hope. Like, that's being hopeful that in 6th grade, nobody's told you that some idea that you've had in your brain that you really are in love with is stupid, that you're going to be judged for stuff. Because that's when we first go into like self-disbelief, self-doubt, is when, like, we're children, I believe, and somebody tells you that you can't do that.
Yeah.
You can't do that. I mean, don't get me wrong. There's a fine
never succeed.
Right. There's a fine line between being a delinquent and doing something out of the ordinary. And people confuse those two. Like, Chad from the gym, Chad Friedman.
Yeah.
That kid, 17 years old, makes a ton of money on the internet because he spends his free time doing things that are different. And he has been for a long time.
Yeah.
Right? I bet you when he was in middle school, he was getting made fun of because he was a nerd and he wanted to do things on the internet. And now that kid's laughing at everybody else because he's making more money than fucking us.
Yeah.
At 17.
And he told us about his other buddies doing the same thing.
Same thing. They're partners. Guarantee you they got kickback from that. And it's the people that have the grit, it's the people that have the tenacity to not only endure the criticism and judgment from people, that can look past that and see that their own ideas, their own way of thinking is unique and like good, that do well, that find their passion, right? Your passion may not be drop shipping shit on Shopify, right? But what is that? Think real deep, right? Because it's easy to say that, you need to find your passion, right? But how do we do that?
That's actually a great, he doesn't care what he's selling.
Doesn't care. There's no attachment. He loves the process.
He loves the process. So the passion is attached to the ability to be able to sell stuff. The marketing, the IT, he's doing all of it.
Entrepreneurism.
So he loves it. He feeds off of that. And it's funny that they have Gary Vee's books as we're talking about that, because this is another guy he loves the game. It's a game. Like, we're a little bit different where I think we really need to love what it is that we're selling.
That too. I love the fucking game as well.
Yeah, the
good
fun,
and the bad of it.
But at the end of the day, like, I couldn't just sell anything.
Socks, right?
Yeah, on the internet. That wouldn't be my jam. But
no.
The reason why that's really important is because regardless if you love selling socks on the internet or supplements on the internet or fitness plans
or inspiration
you
or yourself,
going to hit some moments where you get punched in the face.
Yeah, sometimes for no reason. That just happened to me.
Then what?
Apparently we're racist. I'm not going to go there.
So that's where the perseverance side comes in. If you're not intellectually and emotionally passionate about what it is you do, and you hit those obstacles and roadblocks and get punched in the face, you're going to fizzle and fade.
Sure. But how do we get there, right? How do we take all the Band-Aids off that are making us feel okay at the time and get to that raw feeling of, oh, this is what it really feels like to be doing what I'm doing right now. And I've been preparing once again for this talk, and I've been watching a lot of TED Talks, and I had come across Steve Jobs' commencement speech at Stanford. And I'm sure a lot of you have heard this, but he says a lot of amazing things in there. And one thing that really hit me was this was the first time he was diagnosed with cancer, and he was like, the doctor told me I got 3 to 6 months. And he had always asked himself, even before that, according to the speech, that when he got up in the morning, he would ask himself, am I doing today what I would do the day before I died? Like, if I knew I was going to die tomorrow, would I still do what I'm doing today? Or would I change it? Would I do something different if I knew I was going to die tomorrow? Do those things align? And then he finally got told that he was going to die. And he asked himself the same question. He said the way that he answers that question, if the answer is no too many days in a row, he knows he needs to change something. Mm-hmm. And that's the type of risk and uniqueness and inspiration that Steve Jobs had for everything that he was doing, not only with Apple, but obviously with Pixar, with Next, with all the other stuff that he was involved with his family. What a great testament to not being the norm and being, like some people would describe as like an original.
Mm-hmm. I love that.
Yeah. And he says one other thing, like about this publication that was out when he was a kid, and he talks about the sign-off letter. It was the last edition of this publication because the internet had kind of taken over, which is really great, and it's mostly because of him, that the sign-off said, "Stay hungry and stay foolish." Because people are gonna come after you. You need to be solid in your own state that everything's going to be all right. Everything's going to be all right. If you have a plan, if you have a big picture plan, everything's going to be fine. You're going to get there. If you're tenacious, if you have grit, if you have perseverance, if you have resourcefulness.
Resourcefulness, and when it comes to the perseverance component, man, if you really biggest thing is find out what you really love to do.
Sure.
There's a way to make money on it. It might not be the most conventional, but there's absolutely a way that you could eventually monetize something if you want to do it professionally.
Sure. But and even Gary Vee's like, if what you love doesn't make money, like find another way to make money and do what you love. Still.
Exactly. Yeah. So make more money doing job A to help support job B.
Doing what you love, right?
But piggybacking off the Steve Jobs thing, like I asked my dad a couple months ago. He's by no way a millionaire, but he's well off. He could retire. He's turned 76 at the end of this month.
Yeah.
And I'm like, when are you going to retire and move down to Florida? Because he lives in Chicago. He's like, I don't want to retire. He's like, I still love selling. Every time I sell, I still get that same adrenaline, endorphin release every time I make a sale. He's like, I love it. He's been doing it since I've been born, which is a long time. Yes, Phil. But he loves it, and he was really blessed to have this story that he shared when we interviewed him with the professional videographer, where he said when he was growing up, his father took him to his grandfather's factory in downtown Chicago, and at 6-7 years of age saw his grandfather running this big corporation and was hooked. He knew from that point on he wanted to be his own boss.
Yeah, and it takes a lot for some people to realize that. Like, it took me having to dive into it myself because my parents didn't work for themselves. My dad was a very successful engineer for a giant company and designed some products that are used in everyday society, did really well there. And my mom ran a commodities company for 25 years. It's like I don't want to say there was no entrepreneurism in my house, but there really wasn't. Like, there was no, like, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, streamlined sales training in my house. Because I took so long pause there because I believe that everything, like, you're selling all the time. All the time. You're selling yourself. You're selling your ideas. You're selling your products, your business, your family, your kids, your everything is.
Don't sell your kids.
Yeah, you end up like me, adopted. Too much? No, we can handle it, man. So the moral of the story here is that it is all about the way that you think about yourself. Are you so in love with your mission, with your ideas, with your thoughts, with your business, with your family, with your anything, that you're willing to go to any lengths to make them better, to keep them, to basically prosper, right? Because if you're not growing,
you're dying.
You're dying.
And I feel like I could not live a life to where I was just working a job for the sake of just making my income. I'm not wired like that, and I don't cast any judgment for people that are, but I do feel like if you are an individual listening to this and you do have ideas and you want to take the risk but struggle with that belief system, then you have to really go into some long, hard looks at yourself and start to work on your self-confidence, because one of the things that made Evolution Fitness and Patriot Sports Nutrition and the podcast is not just the vision, but I think we both have very strong conviction in that we know we're doing the right thing, A, and B, we believe that we could pull it off.
Well, we're fucking pulling it off.
When we said we burned the ships have
sailed, man. Ships have sailed.
There's no choice but to take the island at this point. But not everyone's wired like that, and I get that because there's people at the gym that I'm telling them to get divorced. And I know
it's that bad. Wade's not a fucking marriage counselor.
Yeah, I'm not a marriage counselor, but it's like when people tell you for 14 years they've been thinking about it, like, fuck, life is too short, man. And this podcast is for people that want to take some skills and some information that they could apply to their life, like we said in the purpose. And the whole thing is we're trying to deliver a message to help people live a better life. And
that's it.
You hate your fucking job. Like my mom is counting down the days to retire for the post office.
Yeah, she can't stand it.
I get to hear the backstories of that. Man, if you work for the post office, God bless you, because their leadership is flawed and broken. But she's counting down the days. Like I can't imagine being 70 counting down the fucking days till I retire because I hate my job. That's not living. And you only get one shot at this planet. So if there is something that you want to do, your art, your pottery, whatever, you could start it as a side hustle and then apply these principles, and you could probably leave your 9-to-5 that you don't like and follow your passion and be able to live your passion.
Sure. And don't get me wrong, and once you start following your dreams and your passion and whatever it is that drives you and keeps you going, you're 100% going to be met with resistance. Like there is resistance. And I had the opportunity, and I'll put the link in our podcast as well, to listen to, and I'm not a giant Oprah fan, but I got to listen to Oprah and Stephen Pressfield, former Marine, talk about the creative process. And, you know, he's the author of The Legend of Bagger Vance, which is a super successful film, and he's written dozens of other things that aren't as notable, but they're still very good, Gates of Fire. And he talks about any action that you take is going to be met with resistance, good or bad. So he asks himself every day, and this is going to be our mission of the day. I think I'm just going to cruise right in there, is ask yourself this question at the end of the day. Have you overcome resistance today? Have you done something that you didn't want to do? Because a lot of the times when you don't do the thing that you know that you have to do, it hurts more than doing the thing itself. Even if that's having a rough conversation. I just had an experience with that. You know, overcome the resistance and ask yourself, did I overcome resistance today? If the answer is yes, then congratulations. It's a good day for you. Keep going. Keep doing it. What else, man?
And we also conclude the podcast. We ask the giant billboard question. So Wade, if you had a giant billboard,
you're going to ask yourself? I'll ask you the billboard question. Hey, Wade, you know, I think we should change things up a little bit today, and I'm going to ask you the billboard question.
Oh, I love that question.
Perfect. Cool. So, Wade, we get this question from the great Tim Ferriss, and hopefully he doesn't mind that we've been borrowing this for probably 35 episodes now. But if you had a giant billboard for the entire world to see, like the whole world, giant billboard, massive, it's not small, what would you put on the billboard? What would your message to the world be?
What made me think of even asking myself the question is because this quote...
I asked you the question.
Is directly in line. What made me think of it is this quote is directly in line with everything we just talked about. It is Ralph Waldo Emerson.
Oh, I love it. Hopefully you can remember it this time.
What lies before you and what lies behind you are tiny matters compared to what lies within you.
Oh, I love it. You smashed it. That was really cool. Awesome. Everyone, thanks so much for tuning in to another episode of the Two Marines One Mic podcast.
What's coming up on the podcast? Who do we got? We got guests.
We got guests coming up.
We got Arnold Schwarzenegger.
We do. We have Arnold Schwarzenegger. We might. Still working on Ed Milet. We're dealing with some scheduling issues there. Also, we have Nick Davenport, who is a sports psychologist and works with UFC fighters and a ton of other athletes, NFL guys. Really cool. Talk about some mindset training and hand-eye coordination techniques that they're using with their fighters and their athletes. Sandra Gonzalez coming up. We're going to re-record an episode with her. What an amazing woman. Super glad that we had an opportunity to do one podcast, and we're going to get to do it again with her, which is going to be incredible. Who else do we got? I feel like I'm missing somebody.
We're working on some other A-list peeps.
Oh,
Top secret.
I'm A-list, dude.
We're just in jab.
I'm A-list.
Jab.
Cool. So cool. So if you like, just as a reminder, if you kind of enjoy listening to our podcast, make sure you hit the subscribe button on whatever platform you're listening to, whether that be YouTube, iTunes, Google Play, SoundCloud, what have you. Find a way to subscribe, find a way to get in touch with us via email, bat signal, smoke signal, UPS. We get a bill from them, which is weird too because we don't use them. But find a way to get in touch with us. We want to know what you're thinking. We want to know what you want to hear, and we want to talk to you specifically. Remember, we're not for everybody, so if you have a like-minded friend that is looking to grow a little bit, maybe hear some inspirational things, maybe hear some practical stuff that they can apply to their life to help them move forward and grow, we'd love to have them too. Mm-hmm. Don't send your not like-minded friends to us because we don't want them. I don't want those messages on Instagram anymore, man. But until next time, we're out.
Simplify.